Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Remember on Seinfeld where Elaine had little kicks? She was like dancing at the Christmas party and she had little kicks.
Brian, you and your obscure like 90s references. I don't even know if half of our people is Simpsons or right.
Question of the day.
I have seen every Seinfeld episode, but it might be like 10 or 15 years since I've seen them. Are you still watching them in reruns and syndication?
I watched every episode a couple of years ago, maybe a year or two, maybe two or three. Maybe it was a COVID thing. I went and rewatched all of them. I mean, it's just an epic show. But yeah, Little Kicks. The Little Kicks was a very iconic moment. But yeah, when you open up the show here, there's this lag of, we're streaming through multiple platforms here at the New American Media for the Agree to Disagree show today, Tuesday, April 16, 2024. So yeah, I always like to do something to kind of give it a couple of seconds so that there's no jet lag between starting the show and then the show actually beginning. So yeah, I just kind of started doing a little bit of a dance and it reminded me of Elaine's Little Kicks. So I hope you're having a great time out there, everybody. Getting a kick out of this show. Little kick out of it. This is Blake, Walley, Blake. We missed you to discuss OJ last week. So let's get an update on OJ and then tell us what you did on Thursday.
Okay. All right. Well,
the juice is gone. The juice is expired. Yeah, it was just now, like that was something we would have normally talked about on Thursday. But yeah, you were doing something else Thursday, so let us know what you did and then give us your take on OJ, just kind of wrapping up his time on Earth and what we remember most about him.
I mean, I remember the trial. I was in high school. I remember we all watched it in class, and it was a big deal. So when people say yes, everyone remembers where they were when OJ was convicted, and that certainly holds true for me as well. So,
I think what it was that we watched though was we watched him get acquitted of the murder, and then he later got subsequently found guilty in the civil court, which is what the judge just came out today. The attorney of the O.J. Simpson estate just said he completely backtracked and said he's not going to fight the $30-some million judgment that's going to the Goldman family now that the estate is up for sale. And by the way, I think I once bartended an event at that estate. Henry Waxman was there giving a speech, and I guess they had bulldozed the old Simpson house and built a new one there. And I was just a bartender for hire at this wacky event. But yeah, OJ was a big deal. He's gone now. Rest in piss, some people say. But what were you doing Thursday? You went and took a trip to Nashville. Tell us, how'd it go?
I sure did. So on Wednesday, I got word. I saw a tweet from one of my favorite bands. Well, yeah, one of my, I guess. Brian, since you were a musician, can two people be a band, or do you have to have at least like three or four? So like, what if you have two people, but then when you play live, you play with, three or four or five, but there's basically like a two-person core. Would you call that a band, or would you call that like a twosome, a duo? How does that work?
Yeah, I briefly represented a guy named Gabe Soriano out in Los Angeles, Long Beach. I was repping bands and stuff. He was a one-man band. He had the equipment. He would play a part, and then he'd stomp a pedal, and he would build it as a loop. Then he would go and play some percussion to it. Then he would loop that. It was a one-man band, doing the whole thing. A two-person band. They make a lot of sound for a two-piece. But yeah, White Stripes, the Black Keys. Yeah, there's a lot of two-man bands that are fantastic. Rodrigo and Gabriella are fantastic flamenco guitar players that cover Metallica. So yes, absolutely, they're a great band, a two-piece band.
Have you seen the White Stripes in concert?
Oh, no, I understand they can add keyboardists, they can add extra guitar player, add a bass player,
right?
Look in the sound. I'm totally fine with that. Give us the strongest show possible. Yeah, absolutely. Bells and whistles, bring it. No shame in that game.
Okay, well then So anyway, I'm torn. My favorite bands are the Black Keys and the Dandy Warhols. the Black Keys are basically two guys, Dan Auerbach, Patrick Carney, and then, Dandy Warhols have 4 people. So more of a full band, whereas I've seen Black Keys and then they add a few extra people to the performance, which is great. And I did get a chance to see them at the Wiltern in 2019, but I follow them on Twitter, and I got word on Wednesday afternoon that they were going to be doing a record signing in Nashville. So I was like, man, I should go to that. So I did. I guess I was too late to get the actual album, record, LP, whatever you want to call it. But so they still had CDs for sale. But I went and I got signed CDs for both you, Brian, and myself. And I actually have a clip of that if you want to see. So I have proof that it was worth the trip. I had to cancel the show or postpone the show. Brian did the show solo, but I will show this clip.
Yeah, it's all good. I enjoy those moments of
it's kind of like a once in a lifetime thing. I would say, it's rare that you get these chances to I can meet my favorite band and they're just, within a few hours of, where they're going to be. And I can either do it or I can, forever, regret not going or what have you. So that was an opportunity that I could not miss. So yeah, here it is. This is kind of the kicker. I do have different videos on Instagram, but this is the one where I actually went with my GoPro and kind of had a little interaction. They had a very tight schedule, so just in and out, go say hello, have them sign your stuff, and get out. So, which is what I did. So here's the interaction, the proof that I met the Black Keys.
Oh, thank you. All right.
It reminds me of you on the set of the Young Turks.
What?
Remember being on the set of the Young Turks? I kind of get that vibe. Like, where's Jimmy Dore? Where's Roger?
All right, well,
Stone?
yeah, let's not get way into the weeds on that one. That's for a story for another day. But yes, I gotcha. So it's a live event. So this lady's cool. She works for the record store. And I was wearing my Black Keys shirt that I got at the tour in 2019 when I saw them at the Wiltern, which was their first concert that they had done, I think, in 4 years. So they were on kind of a hiatus. And then they were going to do the big festival in Las Vegas. I forget what it's called. Life is Beautiful tour, I believe. But they decided to do a tune-up concert at the Wiltern the night before. And I happened to be living in LA. I was actually renting Brian's old place in Culver City there. Anyway, long story. But I did go to that. So that was right around my birthday. So that's a cool story for another day. But I did go see them before. And then I did mention that to Patrick when I was getting stuff signed. So here we go. We'll roll. But yeah, she got a picture of me in my Black Keys shirt. And she gave me some helpful advice not to, stack the albums on top of each other so they wouldn't smear the autographs. So here we go. Continue to roll.
T-shirt. Yeah, there you go, man. Set yours down.
Thank you.
And just make sure not to smear your copies when you pick them up together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the thing that happens sometimes with people on multiples. They just put them together.
Appreciate it.
No problem. There you go.
Hey, guys. How you doing? Hey, do you mind signing one for me, Blake, and then one for Brian, please?
Yeah. For Blake.
Appreciate you guys. Yeah. So I at the Wiltern at the 2019. That was a great show. Yeah, thank you.
And for Brian?
Yeah.
How do you spell Brian?
Brian. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
That was an 8-track that they signed, you said?
Haha. No, I was going to get the full record. I thought would be cool, but I don't have a record player. I don't, I guess I don't listen to music the traditional way anymore. I'm pretty much a Spotify guy. So I'd love to have a record player, but I mean, that's just not the way I consume music these days. But that's, still the traditional method. But I would have got the album, but they literally sold out. So I had to buy CDs. But
thanks for the reminder.
At least I didn't miss completely out. So I'll take it.
No, that's very cool. Thanks for the reminder. I do have a record player and I do have a bunch of records and I just haven't really set it all up. It's been a while and it's kind of next up on the list. So I will go ahead and get to that. Awesome, Blake. Well, glad you had a good time meeting the Black Keys and Can't wait to check out that album. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, we cover the news every week, Blake, and the news is pretty wonky. And the news can really bring some of that black pill energy of just like doom and gloom and everything sucks. It's like, well, we might as well remember to live while we're alive. Like, go do the things. I saw that Anthony Bourdain quote where he said, go sit in a bar at 4:00 at happy hour and hang out with people you wouldn't normally talk to and order the cream sauce and get a beer and like go do these things.
Get a Negroni, have two. Right. I've seen the quotes. Yeah.
Yeah. He said it a few different times, a few different ways, but it's definitely what you have to do in this world. Like, don't get so tunnel vision on any particular political or current event bullshit. I mean, how quickly, oh my God, we're in World War III turns into, all right, we're back to posturing again. What the hell is this? Kind of ebbs and flows, but it is usually a good idea to kind of keep our wits about us. No need to stand on your tiptoes all day ready to lunge at stuff. So go see your favorite band, check out your favorite music, and do that while you still can. So on today's episode of the Agree to Disagree show, we're going to discuss the following topics. We're going to ask we're going to talk about voting in 2024. Let's just leave it at that. What should we be supporting? We're also going to talk about Mike Johnson. Well, how much better is he than the last guy, Kevin McCarthy? Or is he the same type of political creature? Also, is Israel trying to drag the United States into World War III? Also, NPR, are they now a completely discredited form of media? Perhaps. Joe Biden. By the way, Joe Biden, he's on top of things and just off the cuff, and he's sharp, and he's making all of these key decisions. Or he can't really get out of bed or tie his shoes without everything scripted on a cheat sheet. We're going to discuss all of these topics and more on today's program. Make sure you're following Blake. He's at TV's Blake Walley. And the Next Level News is where you will find his archive. And, of course, find the Agree to Disagree show and the New American Media in all of the places, including patreon.com/the New American Media, if you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee for the efforts. All right, let's jump into today's program, shall we?
Yeah.
All right, Blake, agree or disagree that we should force Democrats to support non-citizen voting? That is an interestingly phrased agree or disagree question. Anthony.
Yeah, it's interesting. This put out. I did see this from Scott Adams, actually. Let me pull up.
Okay.
That quote. That's where I found this from. Yeah, it's very important. Get this. To get a double click it. Make sure we got it in here. So he posted this last week, right? A few days ago. Saying this is a fun play. Make Democrats support non-citizens voting. It's a total kill shot. And I would absolutely agree with this. So this is about Speaker Johnson. He's introducing legislation at a press conference with Donald Trump, requiring people registering to vote in a federal election to prove that they are a U.S. citizen. This bill also requires states to remove non-citizens from their existing voter rolls. So as we've talked about many times, this about having the election integrity. What difference does it make having the election if we can't agree on the results? And so we would like to see just a regular, traditional, single day. It doesn't even have to be a single day. I think just everybody, there should be no mail-in voting, none of this bogus stuff that they've been getting away with the last few years. We have to ensure election integrity. Citizens, voting, showing an ID, valid signature, one vote per person, no early mail-in, all that stuff. Or maybe they could have a little bit of the early stuff, but everything's got to be legitimized, double-checked. And so we don't have the same problems that we've had in the past. And I really don't like these computers, this Dominion, any of these voting machines that can be manipulating. We still never got a full, forensic audit of Arizona, especially with the machinery, even though, Fox did pay off that lawsuit. There's plenty of things that people saw that was wrong with that last time, with 6 swing states stopping counting in the middle of the night. Not even third world countries are that sloppy. So yeah, I think this is a big one because people are worried that there's an open border. We've got millions of people come in illegally in the last 4 years, and people are concerned that they might be legalized to vote in this election. And many people think that this has been the game plan all along for the Democrats to ensure their victory, is by getting the illegals to basically vote for their own freedom, which of course they would. But if that can be stopped before it happens, then that should be ideal. But will the Democrats do it? But yes, they need to make an effort to force them in front of the American people and say, yes, we value election integrity, and whoever wins. It's not the ends justify the means kind of BS. So anyway, I'm all for it.
The baseball season has started, Blake. A couple weeks in. I'm not sure how your Twins are doing. I know the Tribe are doing okay. What'd you say? They're fair?
No, I said don't care. I've divorced myself from baseball. I was a diehard fan for most of my life until about 2005 or so, and then I just completely gave up. Now I don't miss it at all. I don't have time for 162,000 games. I don't care, but I love playing it. If somebody wants to do a beer league softball team, I'm a little older, but I can still play shortstop. I could still get on the diamond right now and hit leadoff and play shortstop and be a valuable team member. I enjoy the game, but watching it could care less.
That actually sounds fun. Maybe we should join a beer league, Blake.
There you go.
I mean, obviously we're separate places.
Too far away for that. But
that sounds like a great idea. Like, how fun would that be? How long has it been since you've played on a baseball team? Well, the reason I bring it up is because, yes, it's been a while. I played maybe the first year or two I got out in Los Angeles. That was a hot minute ago. But I was thinking about baseball, and I looked it up. Blake, who elects someone into the Baseball Hall of Fame? Do you happen to know off the top of your head?
The Writers Association, something like that. Baseball Writers. I don't know.
Yes, that one. It's the Baseball Writers Association of America, BBWAA, Baseball Writers Association of America. Once a year, they kind of review all the players. Once they've retired officially, and it's been a couple of years. Each league has a little bit of a different definition of what constitutes a retired player and thus eligible for a Hall of Fame ballot. But, it's a select group of experts and people qualified to make the decision on who they're going to let in. That's the same thing it is with any boardroom discussion. You have shareholders and you have board of director members that have been elected by the residents, by the shareholders, to represent them. And if you just opened up the Baseball Hall of Fame ballot to anybody, it doesn't mean anything anymore. The entire point of having an election is because the people impacted, the correct people, are getting to determine the direction where things are going. If you're not qualified to be in that group of people that gets to steer the ship, I mean, there's nothing more basic than locking your front door. But when you go to bed at night, there's nothing more basic than you determine your future. You don't have outside parties sneak in and then claim to have just as many rights as you do. You don't go into any other country and do that. And you can't do that here. So, yeah, I think putting Democrats on the record for this, it's absolutely crucial. And we only have a couple of months to get some sort of Supreme Court. I mean, I think they're going to need some sort of law ASAP to kind of standardize and really just, it's become too complicated and unknowable what the actual results of an election are. They need to be paper. They need to be saved. They need to be recorded. And they need to have someone from Republican and Democrat to sign off on mini batches along the way. Something that could always be double checked and audited down the road. That's what we need in this country, Blake. So, I mean, the correct people have to be casting their ballots. You can't just have anybody jump in and say, oh, I want to do this. It's like, that's great, but it doesn't matter what you think. What matters is that the people who are going to be directly impacted by this and are eligible, these are the ones we want participating. So yeah, you pulled up this from the Gateway Pundit. If you want to tell us what this one is.
Yeah, I guess they're distributing flyers. This is a Mexican NGO instructing illegal aliens to vote for Biden in the upcoming election. We need another 4 years of his term so that they can keep the border open. So yeah, this is the game plan. Whether they want to admit it or not, any Democrat, if you talk to them privately, would probably be absolutely fine with having the illegals come in here and vote. It's ends justify the means. So they would lower the voting age to 16. They'll let prisoners vote. They'll do whatever it takes as long as they can get the extra votes that they need to win. They would do it. And so measures have to be taken to make sure that only legitimate U.S. citizens. This is a privilege. This is something that is earned. And cannot be tampered with, or are we going to lose our republic, democracy, whatever you want to call it? We won't be the same country anymore. So,
Kenneth put on the crawler there. The ends justify the memes. Yes, the ends justify the memes. The memes are the best part of being a part of the new American media in 2024. It's a constant, evolving conversation, and so many comics out there. Yeah, we need another 4 years of his term.
Años. Yes, that's what they
want. Más años.
Imagine how many extra people without any, resistance from the Republicans. What would the Democrats do if they got another 4 years of open border? It'd be over. But then there'd never be another one election. If all these people that have come in the last few years are allowed to vote, and they keep the border open another 4 years, that's it. That's the end of our country. We'll get to enjoy a few more years of the old good old days, and then it'll be gone. It'll be voted away from us, and there will be no way to vote it back in. So this is very serious stuff.
It certainly is, and we got to keep our eyes peeled on it. So they're saying that they want to pass a law and get all the get the Democrats on the record saying that they are against voter integrity. It's kind of astonishing that we're here. It's just it's a slow motion car crash. This is so unnecessary, and it's so obvious what's happening, and there needs to be punitive measures taken for the people involved. It's just, well, who's the enforcement mechanism? Do we need the Supreme Court to step in on this? Congress is going to pass a law. I mean, this is as redundant as saying females should be participating against females in female sports. Why do we need to say that? I don't know. I just feel like I should say it a second time. It's like, weren't we clear the first time? We're trying to double down and make sure there is some sort of integrity. But, if there is not an easy, understandable way to audit what each precinct is doing and following a chain of custody, and having this in a way that elections have always been done, in one day, in your hand, check it, someone else checks it, you check against each other, and you save the boxes. There's nothing to this. All of these other suggestions are just intentionally murky, where there could be a potential of shenanigans, and I don't want to see that. So we will keep our eyes peeled on this, and it would be a fun play. But speaking of Speaker Mike Johnson, Blake, do you agree or disagree that he should be ousted from leadership? He has come under fire lately. The troops are not happy. There are mumblings, Blake, and grumblings.
Yeah, there certainly is. And let me actually, I want to find a story here on that. How about let's take Marjorie Taylor Greene. I know her and Thomas Massey now. He's going to be co-sponsoring to basically get rid of him. Let's take a look at this Marjorie Taylor Greene clip here.
It was Speaker Johnson was the final vote. He was the one that caused the warrant amendment to fail. And I think that's going to tell a lot of people what I've been saying is true. So basically, what's the difference in Speaker Pelosi and Speaker Johnson?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's only 17 seconds, so it's done. I can replay it. Go for it.
Oh no, sorry. I didn't know how much time she was going to go on, but he was the tying vote. Like
yeah,
he's on the other side of this. He does not care what I guess it's just the MAGA crowd and the deep state crowd, right? Because the rhinos are on the Republican side, the deep state Democrats, the progressives. Like it's really the globalists, the deep state versus, I guess it's just MAGA versus DS.
It's crazy. I know the leftists have actually embraced their arch enemies, the neocons from the 2000s. Everything's against Trump and MAGA.
It's incredible.
And they lied for years and said he was on the payroll of Putin, which turned out to be absolutely false. But
it always was false. It was always obviously false if anyone was paying attention. It's blatantly false. It's stupidly false. It's just the powers that be have got a hard-on for attacking Russia. Have got a hard-on for lining all the borders with weaponry and pushing forward. Overthrowing Burisma, Ukraine, 2014, Victoria Nuland, fingerprints all over everything. I mean, they were so annoyed that Trump came in and discovered this and outed their scheme, the alleged money laundering and firing the investigator at Burisma. Trump got impeached by Congress because he's pointing out corruption. So when the corrupt people who always support Biden continue to lie and take money and drive up inflation and leave our own personal security wide open, not even just wide open, intentionally placing potential wild cards for disaster. I mean, there's never been a more clear signal that we don't even resemble a constitutional republic. And you wonder what meetings the Mike Johnsons of the world have when they reach that position of power, when they become the Speaker of the House. When Kevin McCarthy gets there, you wonder what the president is told when they become president. You wonder who's they. Like this just raises so many more questions. What was Mike Johnson told something, shown something that he's not allowed to explain that may or may not be true, and now he's changed his mind despite the will of the voters, the will of the party, the will of the rest of the nation, saying, for the love of God, stop this. How many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dead bodies were shoved through that Ukrainian meat grinder? Like, why does this have to keep happening? I mean, it's because of the people who are in the puppet positions at the moment, which is why it feels important that this regime is removed. It feels important. You don't have to love Trump. I don't care how you feel about Trump. You can look at this and say, this system doesn't work. This Biden in charge and Johnson, whoever else the Republicans put up at Speaker, it's more of the same. So, look, if Thomas Massey's in, if Marjorie Taylor Greene's in, I want to hear what they have to say. So they're going to oust him, and then who do they put in? I don't know if there are rumblings of who they want to replace Mike Johnson with, but I'm all about it. What do I care? Sure. Like, make it a rotating position so you can never get too damn corrupt. Everybody gets 3 months. Go give it a good 3 months and then get away. You're too close to the ring of Sauron. You're in Lord of the Rings climbing up the mountain. Like, the power corrupts, Blake. The power corrupts.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I mean, look, they could be, threatening him. It's not even blackmail. They could be threatening his family. Like, something bad's going to happen to your niece or something. You just never know how these people are operating. This is high stakes, and they need to, be in control, and they need to keep these people on, bidding, do their own bidding. So who knows what Johnson is going, what's going on behind the scenes. But if he's unwilling to represent the American people, then, yeah, he should be ousted. whether he's being threatened or blackmailed or what have you. So, yeah, Mike Johnson's in trouble. Thomas Massie announces he will join forces with Marjorie Taylor Greene to oust him. And Johnson can only afford to lose one more vote. It's too thin there, the margin, the majority there in Congress. So they reported last month MTG filed a motion to vacate the chair and remove Mike Johnson as House Speaker, thanks to actions over the House Omnibus Bill, which will fund the government through September. And now Thomas Massie will also co-sponsor. So moreover, Massie told Johnson that the only way to avoid getting booted was to clean the barn and resign, or else he'll be vacated. So that would be the easy way. Or if they're not, then you can oust them through another vote, and then we'll have to go through that shit show again of trying to see who we're going to bring back in there. So they already got rid of Kevin McCarthy, and now Mike Johnson seemed like an okay guy after going through several different names, but it appears we might have to go back to the drawing board and find somebody who's got the balls and the backbone to represent and stand up to the deep state no matter what.
For the life of me, Blake, I don't understand how these. All right, I'm gonna stay in the sports analogy here. It's a lot like being a Cleveland Browns fan for the past 30 years. Our team was stolen in the mid 90s, taken to Baltimore. They win multiple championships. Our coach at the time, Bill Belichick, he gets fired, then he goes and wins for 2 decades straight in New England for the Patriots. Just being a Cleveland fan, watching the 2 main rivals in my own division, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens, repeatedly, year after year, winning the division, advancing in the playoffs, going to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, and winning the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, and we can't even make it to the playoffs. It's like, it's not even the same sport that they're playing. When the Democrats have power, they push forward. It's been said before that Republicans are the party of no ideas, and the Democrats are the party of bad ideas. And they push forward, the Democrats do, with awful ideas, but they are organized. They have their group. They have their Democrats locked in, moving in the same direction, focused on achieving goals and accomplishing tasks. The Republicans, they're the Cleveland Browns, man. Now, obviously, for the past couple of years, we've been in the playoffs, so maybe take that stretch away. But the Republicans spin their wheels. Every time they get a moment of power, they lose traction. They need tires that grip. They need tires designed for these conditions. It's muddy in the swamp. They need swamp tires. They don't have them. And so it's never miss an opportunity to take advantage of a crisis. That's what Rahm Emanuel and the Democrats believe. And the Republicans seem to believe never miss an opportunity to shoot yourself in the foot whenever you have a little bit of sway and power. I mean, they're down to like the razor thin margins to the point where they're saying Hakeem Jeffries might end up being the Speaker of the House of the Democrats. Like, that's how weird and colluded and rigged this whole system feels, Blake. Even the people who have done everything possible to jam a wrench into the gears of this to stop this machine from moving in off the cliff, just trying to get it to stop before it goes Thelma and Louise careening into a chasm. Instead, the Republicans are just messing around, not going after concrete tasks, not securing the voting procedures nationwide for 2024. They're just messing around. And I just, for the life of me, I just wish the Republicans had a strong, focused leader. I mean, when is the last time they had a Speaker of the House that did a couple of good things and got a couple of good things done? Mike Johnson did a couple, but I mean, maybe Newt Gingrich was focused. I mean, they worked with the Democrats and reduced the deficit and stuff in the 90s, but this is insanity, Blake. So I guess we'll just follow this. I don't know if you had any more thoughts on this page, the Gateway Pundit here.
No, not necessarily. We can move along. We'll see how that develops. So, yeah, Mike Johnson falling out of favor, and his job's in danger.
Let me just play a quick clip here. This is from CNN.
A vote seeking seeking the speaker's ouster here. The question is, will Marjorie Taylor Greene does go this route? Will there be enough support to drive him from the speakership? A number of Democrats are indicating that they will vote to save Mike Johnson, especially if he moves ahead on a Ukraine aid package that is similar to the plan that did pass the Senate. So some of the details are still yet to be hashed out.
So, Blake, I mean, when the Democrats are supporting you, I mean, is that a clear sign that you're a swamp creature? Am I making that a little too simplistic?
I mean, not necessarily. I'd love to have like bipartisanship where we just agree on major things. It shouldn't be this divided where we got to like get a majority and force the other side to bend to the will. We should be passing legitimate stuff that we all agree on. We want to keep the budget going, fine, but don't jam it full of pork. Don't, stop funding these wars we're not interested in. And that would be ideal. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way anymore. It's like they've all been bought and paid for. So they're all being corrupted by special interests. They don't represent the people anymore. So
Thomas Massey elaborated. He said he just told Mike Johnson in conference that he is co-sponsoring the motion. So like that's not being reported. It is actual. It's already happening. And he's suggesting you should pre-announce his resignation. Mike Johnson should pre-announce his resignation as John Boehner did, so that we can pick a new speaker without ever being without a GOP speaker. So, I mean, you say what you want. Thomas Massey, he's a thinking man. He's pragmatic. He's reasoned, and he's had enough. So, I mean, in the absence of really having any idea, is there anyone you can actually trust in Congress? I mean, the answer is no, obviously, but Thomas Massey probably gets as close as anybody gets to having some moral clarity and focus that a libertarian leaning person could kind of aim their trajectory for.
Ron Paul, baby. We need another Ron Paul in there.
A Ron Paul revolution, of course. Dreamer Ultra says, in short, he's been a huge disappointment, and the alters are even worse. All right, well, we'll keep an eye on that. Talking about alternatives here, we had relatively calm relations nationwide. Things were, for a couple of years, for the first time in our lifetimes, Blake, we had a president in 2016 to 2020 who did not drag us into an unnecessary foreign conflict, as Ron Paul would probably jump up and down and clap and say, bravo, fucking thank you. This is so unnecessary to spill our blood and treasure on foreign soil. It's so stupid. You do it as an absolute final necessity as self-defense. We shouldn't be playing Team America World Police. That is the Ron Paul doctrine. Am I close? At least on the world political stage, Blake. Am I summing that up closely?
Yeah, I think it's close enough. Yeah, he was definitely, opposed to these foreign conflicts. We get dragged into it. He's very critical of both, Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yep.
And he was absolutely right.
And he used a term quite often called blowback. And blowback is what happens when you F around, you find out. And it's Ron Paul got criticized, but my Lord, I mean, how many bridges, how much infrastructure, how much important, necessary, crucial projects could this country have embarked upon? How stable could that border be with clear processing to filter out the venom and the poison and to help the humans who are being trafficked against their will into God knows what awful situation? That those resources could have been spent here at home, fortifying your fence line to keep your neighbor's pit bull from running around in your yard. It's a good idea to have a nice fence. Ben Franklin said, good fences make good neighbors. But let's talk about this. Fences and neighbors. Israel is trying to drag the United States into World War III, Blake. Do you agree or do you disagree? This was the thumbnail for today's show. Tell us about the inspiration.
Well, we had a big scare over the weekend. Brian, I don't know what you were doing Saturday, but yeah, the Twitter just went and erupted with all of the freaking out of Iran launching missiles at Israel and escalating tensions. But then it kind of, at the end of the day, it sort of petered out, and Iran basically said, okay, we're done. That was a retaliatory strike after the Israel shot missiles at Syria, at the was it the consulate? But killed some of the top leadership for Iran. So they didn't like it, and they had kind of a right to sort of retaliate, which they did. And then it was kind of, okay, that's it. But now Israel's talking about they're going to attack again. I don't want to say all of Israel. I'm just going to say the Netanyahu regime. It'd be like saying the Bush-Cheney regime doesn't necessarily represent all of America's interests. They certainly didn't, but they certainly got us into war, with or without proof of, WMDs or what have you. So, yes, this could be a major problem. And Israel is not equipped to fight Iran on its own, and they're going to need the United States if they are going to do that. But I think there's a lot of hesitancy there, because that could escalate very quickly, get out of hand, and could basically destroy the planet if nukes start going off. So even the Biden regime, which I disagree with on a lot of things, is skeptical of this. They're saying they're concerned Israel is trying to drag America into a war with Iran. So this is President Biden privately expressed concern on Saturday night when Bibi Netanyahu was trying to drag America into a war with Iran, according to NBC News. So in the days leading up to the attack on Israel, U.S. intelligence showed that Iran's leaders felt the need to respond to Israel's strike in Damascus due to concern of domestic, there's your word, blowback, if the strike went unanswered, according to the senior administration official. But Biden has privately expressed concern that Netanyahu is trying to drag the U.S. more deeply into a broader conflict. So I don't know exactly how much command Biden has.
Let's pause there for a second. Let's pause on that particular point.
Sure.
Who is it that's trying to fuel a broader conflict there? Blake, it was the Biden administration that instantly gave Tehran, how many was it? Tens of billions, hundreds of billions, trillion. It's so hard to keep track of all these massive black budget ops that are going on.
Right.
But it was Biden that fueled the Iranian terrorist attacks. Like, it's directly funded by Biden. And then he's going to claim that it's Israel pushing for a broader conflict after he armed all of those crazy people in Afghanistan with the botched withdrawal at the Air Force Base. With all that loss of life, that unnecessary loss of life. He disarmed American troops, left all sorts of human assets behind and all of the weaponry behind. He's the one that freed up all of the money for Iran to be funding these attacks. And then he has the gall to say it's Israel pushing for a world war, for escalated conflict. It's so hard to follow the logic here.
I'm not sure, 100% of that paper trail. I'm not saying I disagree with it. I just don't know if that's necessarily the reason that Iran is behind all of this in the end. So as far as I'm concerned, yes, Hamas, the terrorist Hamas group, went after, they invaded Israel on 10/7. That was horrific. I won't get into the
weeds. Really quick point.
Okay.
Going in and anyways, I just started blasting. To go in and do something like that at a music festival, we started today's show off just talking about we got to take some time in your life, enjoy some of the finer things, some smiles, sing along some of your favorite songs, get some sunlight, have some food, like just enjoy life a little bit. It reminds me of that scene in Pulp Fiction when he's talking about, some chicken shit punk keyed my car. It almost would have been worth letting my car get keyed just to catch the punk who did it. There is nothing more chicken shit than fucking with another man's automobile. And when you just break years of peace by launching an attack at a music festival, I mean, the people behind these decisions are the worst. These chicken shit actions. Like, it's just, and the blowback to all of this, years of peace broken by that bullshit. And then Biden's blaming Israel for this one. It's
all right. Well, I think people of Palestine would probably disagree that it's, years of peace and that everything was great and they were loving life and their little, little island there.
Well, they can't disagree with years of peace. Years of peace happen.
Life was great and prosperity. Yeah. And there were no.
Well, they can look to their own leadership for wondering why they're
that's fine. It's another story. We're getting into the weeds. I'm not justifying the attack.
But just to be clear, there is no opinion on years of peace. Years of peace were there were years of peace. The Abraham Accords, they worked. They were years of peace broken by those assholes.
A few years, right? When did the Abraham Accords go in? Because Trump was only in there for 4 years, so I don't know when the Abraham Accords went into effect. And yes, there was peace for maybe a few years, but it wasn't like decades or anything like that. It's always been a tumultuous time over there.
But really quick, what's the difference? I don't understand. What's the differentiation you're making there? Like, so what? Like, that was a move in the right direction, completely 180'd into the wrong direction. What's the difference in how long it was? It was 2020.
It was a few years. You're sounding like it was just, like generations of peace and prosperity.
I didn't say generations of peace and prosperity.
Well, I know, I said giving you a contrast. Right. So I'm giving you a contrast. You make it sound like the Abraham Accords were the greatest thing ever done and that there was going to be a lasting peace for generations until Hamas terrorists.
You're extrapolating a lot from what I said. The Abraham Accords went into play in September. The Abraham Accords went into play September 15, 2020. So it was what, 3 years?
September 15,
3 years in the right direction.
2020. So at the end of Trump's administration, basically. And you think that was this great thing,
and the negotiation up to this
3 years.
What do you mean? I think it was a great thing.
So it was.
You think it was a bad thing?
37 months. Okay, no, but there you go. You just said it. It was 2020, so it was only 37 months. That's not a lot of time.
Was it a bad thing? I don't understand what point you're making here. What was it? Were the Abraham Accords bad?
The Abraham Accords basically just brought peace and prosperity to the region, and everybody was just thriving together.
I said peace. It's not adding prosperity. I mean, they have to govern themselves, and they prefer launching chicken shit attacks on their neighbors. They're being governed by nitwits. I'm talking about peace. The prosperity's on their own government.
Right.
Their own government
Israel is being led by warmongers, and they were ready to oust Bibi Netanyahu. He was getting so unpopular. They were getting ready for massive revolt and resistance against Bibi when all of a sudden, inexplicably, the Israeli defense, the best in the world, just suddenly let their guard down for several hours and led up to a shooting gallery at this concert. Yeah,
would you use the same word inexplicable to being attacked by the neighbors, by the terrorist cells launching continuous attacks, never stopping?
Is that what? So, how many people were killed or injured in all these attacks?
That's a great question because those numbers have been completely revamped.
Now, how many people have been killed in Gaza?
30-40%.
Okay. How many people have been killed in Gaza in the last 6 months, Brian?
No, did you see that report that came out? Saying about 40% overstated. There are actual guidelines.
Okay, well then give me a number, Brian. Well then give me Brian, give me a number.
I said it was 35%. I don't recall the report.
Okay, well let's say there's 30,000
about 40% over reported.
Okay, so that's so
pure propaganda.
20,000 people. Okay. Well, if they're reporting 30,000 people and we lop off 30-some%, what is that? That's 210,000, right? So that's down to 20,000. Okay, let's say only 20,000 people. So that's cool. It's no worries. Oh, not 30,000 innocent people. It's 20,000 people. Is that a good statistic? I don't know. It's not. No.
I got a question. What did you think about this? I heard this idea tossed out there. Because Iran got involved, and Iran has, I think this is the first time ever that Iran has directly attacked Israel. Is that your understanding as well? I think it's the first time Iran, not using a proxy, has literally.
And they announced their attack, and they said it was purely in retaliation because they had an embassy bombed in Syria. So, and they lost senior leadership. So it was an attack, and they can't sit there and just not do anything. So I think, as much as I could despise, say, the Iranian regime, I thought they were very measured in this. I thought they were, yes, they handled this very well under the circumstances. They said, hey, you blew up our guys, and now we have to respond. They very carefully said that. They launched their missiles. Israel knew they were coming. They knocked out 99% of them, but they still said, hey, okay, we're done. They even went to the United Nations and said, okay, that was our response. We consider this matter finished. I thought that was about as well as you could handle these tensions. For this crazy theocratic regime, I think that was, cool on their part. But now Israel, I don't want to say Israel, we'll say the Netanyahu regime is talking about how they're going to retaliate again.
Well, okay, let me just play devil's advocate, because that's what a lot of people were saying over the weekend. It was so measured, and it was the kind of a brilliant strategic move. What if they just went in the ring swinging, and everything that they swung was dodged? I mean, is it that they only launched and made sure that there were no casualties so that it wouldn't escalate any further, or did they take their best shots and they can't swing a punch?
No, I don't think they didn't target any civilian structures that I'm aware of. I don't know. I don't know if you can control it that much.
The story that's being reported, I mean, they have their Iron Dome systems. They have a pretty impressive. Yeah, and
they have allies in the region that also help them. Yeah, that's fine.
Anyway, I just, because that was what I heard over the weekend. It was just like, a measured response, and it was kind of brilliant strategy and well played. And it's like, well, or they sucked, or they launched a bunch of junk.
It wasn't like, Scud missiles from Iraq back in, when was that last conflict? Was that early 90s?
Well, no, it was after September 11th. So it would have been 02, 03, because we were back in there.
Yeah.
01, 02.
Well, we had the first Iraq conflict.
Oh, yeah, like 90, what was that, 90?
No, it was during Senior Bush. I believe that was 91.
Yeah, right around there. I was going through my sports cards, Blake. I have Pro Set and Topps Desert Storm trading cards. How sick is that? We make trading cards of a war.
Right.
And, we trade them just like garbage pail kids, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, look, I will take a moment and just show us, for appreciation's sake, let's speak some good shit into the world. We're in a much different spot at this particular moment than we were a couple of days ago. All the red lights were flashing a couple of days ago, but problem is this isn't over. This isn't anywhere near over. And it's going on in Ukraine, it's going on in Gaza.
It could be over. Now, if Israel decides not to respond,
not with Biden funding this stuff.
If Israel decides not to respond, then there is a chance that things don't have to escalate any further. Nobody wants this thing. United States, not Saudi Arabia, not Russia. Nobody wants this thing to get any worse. It's going to, not only could it, embroil the world into a war, it's going to drive up gas prices. It's going to tank the economy. There's lots of problems that will be caused by this. And nobody wants to get involved in that. And once it gets into nuclear war, it could be the end of our planet, end of our civilization over this. Is it worth it? Is it worth the Ayatollah or Bibi Netanyahu? I don't think so. But there are concerns.
We'll keep an eye on it.
Right.
I mean, it didn't escalate further from that moment yet.
Okay, well, do you think Iran had a right to retaliate after the embassy was shot in Syria?
I mean, Blake, we're in a world war. Like,
so do you think that they had a right to retaliate?
How do I know?
Oh, come on. That's an easy question.
It's nonstop fighting.
First, right?
Until they agree on some sort of hang on. Until they agree on some sort of ceasefire arrangement. And my understanding is they're still holding hostages. Screw that. Like nuts. No unconditional terms of surrender. Like, just everything must be resolved from what they started. Has that happened
Brian,
yet?
Do you think that we should go in? Free? Okay, Brian, if Bibi Netanyahu said, yes, let's go and strike back at Iran, would you support that?
Would I support
if
what?
Bibi Netanyahu
Would I support
said
Israel
yes,
deciding to?
Yeah. Would you support Bibi retaliating again? Would you be a supporter of that? Do you think we should? Do you think the United States should invade Iran or get involved with this?
Oh, now you're talking about Iran from 1979 to
well,
now.
I'm not getting in the weeds. This is a very easy question.
No, that's not in the weeds because Iran has been a shit show. They've been governed.
Brian,
Hold on. We're not in the weeds.
Installed the Shah.
We're not in the weeds. Hold on a second, Blake. Obama backed the wrong people in the color revolution during his term when Iran had a chance to overthrow the zealots who were constantly pushing warfare in that region. Obama picked the wrong side. Obama Biden picked the wrong side. Obama Biden deep state picked the wrong side. Newland, Obama, deep state, Biden, they all picked the wrong side. So now if we're talking about toppling Iran, like Iran's been a shit show. That place used to be a decent place.
Yeah, Brian. Yeah, I'm going to interrupt here, Brian. Yes, you're right. It was a good place. And speaking of Ron Paul, who's said that we overthrew Mossadegh in 1953. Yes, Iran was good. But then the United States, their deep state back then, put in the Shah, and then they turned Iran into an authoritarian shithole. So it was our fault. So we did that. So we created this enemy.
I mean, yeah. Okay, I mean, it's not like you and I were voting for this.
That's the reality of what happened. They had good leadership, and then we overthrew it, just like they overthrew people in South America. We did
just like they did in the United States.
So not just to throw, Iran, they're evil or whatever. We did that. Started it decades ago.
We see what the leadership does and what the leadership has done since then.
Yeah,
so we can hate the leadership there because they were installed.
Right, keep those people under control and make it authoritarian. Yep. Then we can exploit their resources. That was great. So that was our own mess. And so, yes, and the people in Iran are probably, decent people. They want to get out of that terror regime too. They don't like it. Iran is not our friend.
How much responsibility lies at the feet of the people of these nations that are being led by sociopaths? Yeah. We have it in America with Joe Biden.
Sure.
How much responsibility is at our footsteps? I mean, we're doing we're one vote, we're one voice, we're one show. I mean, something has to come up from the people of the region. But that's if their voice is even allowed to allowed to be heard. If the entire system is rigged, if it's all a facade, it's all a puppet show.
Right. So they're under a hellacious regime. They're being oppressed. They don't like it, but that's the way it is. And then they can do it. It's not like United States where we have a First and Second Amendment. We have Bill of Rights.
I was thinking about that today too. What do you say we find a way? Would you say that the Bill of Rights, the top 10 amendments, like that there's a way we could do a nation, like a global version of that? Because we hear about Brazil getting overthrown and what's happening down there.
I don't think you understand. They don't want that. This is going to be taken. This is a takeover from whatever, the World Economic Forum, New World Order, whatever we want to say. They don't like the fact that we have a Bill of Rights. It took a long time just in history. It's always been under some kind of authoritarianism.
Oh, I'm well aware of that. That's why I'm saying
and they're trying to take it back. Well, yeah, it would be.
It's for that exact reason that it's needed in places in every country.
Sure.
Like strip down the United States code and set that up in other nations, starting Canada.
We're barely holding on to it here. They are taking that away. We're constantly fighting for that. We're just barely on life support trying to fight for freedom of speech. Only because, Elon jumped in and bought Twitter. They don't care about the freedom of speech. They hate all that stuff. They hate the Bill of Rights. They don't want us armed. If they had their way, if people's guns would be taken away, there'd be no freedom of speech, no Fourth Amendment, and it would just be a top-bottom, just open fascism. This would be a state of neo-feudalism. That's what they're trying to do. So we're barely holding on. So we have no way to help the rest of the world right now. We used to be the good guys, and now we've been corrupted from within. So unless we get Trump,
how long have we not been the good guys?
Right.
How long has it been since we've actually been the good guys?
Been a lot.
That's a theoretical. I don't know that we can identify. Was it JFK? Was it Federal Reserve? I don't know. Go back, but
well,
it seems like
Mossadegh was a bad one. Yes, the overthrowing Iran was not a good thing. Getting meddling around in South America was not a good thing. These are all these foreign entanglements we had no reason to get involved in. Vietnam, the draft. Yeah, and when the Federal Reserve.
It once again reminds me of the Reagan quote that I seem to be quoting.
Right.
Yeah, it just reminds me again of the Reagan quote that I seem to be quoting once an episode now. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Yeah, we're at a crossroads here, so we'll keep our eyes peeled on it. I mean,
yeah. So, Brian, I got like 17 minutes. So I really got to start accelerating here. Then you can cover whatever we missed or whatever else you want. But let's run a piece of this clip here from Judge Napolitano.
Same topic. I was getting ready to jump to the next one.
Okay, well, let's just talk about Netanyahu must escalate this conflict here with Iran to survive. This is for his political survival. This is just like, to me, he's like Zelensky. He needs this conflict in order to stay in power. And so, but if we go along with it, we'll end up fighting Russia directly. And I said most of the U.S. political class is bought and paid for by the Israeli lobby, AIPAC. And of course, speaking of John F. Kennedy, who was assassinated, that might have been part of the reason he was killed, was because he was trying to get, I think, AIPAC to register as a foreign agency. And now they've got a lot of money and power and control, especially over our own politicians. But let's take a look. Iranians don't want a war. Nobody wants this war, and the future could be potentially grim if things continue to escalate. So let's watch this.
Mr. Netanyahu must escalate to survive, and he believes that escalating the war is ultimately Israel's salvation. How do you escalate the war? You goad Iran into attacking you, and this is a direct provocation designed to precipitate a major response from Iran. So it's a foregone conclusion that if Mr. Netanyahu is successful and we are dragged into this, we will end up fighting with the Russians directly. Most of your political class is bought and paid for by the Israeli lobby. Hatred has taken over. Emotion has taken over. There is no rational calculus unless you want to judge plans for the annihilation of Arabs in Gaza, in the West Bank, and potentially southern Lebanon as a rational calculus. I don't think you're going to see a deliberate counterstrike from Iranian soil because, again, the Iranians don't want a war. This is the thing that has to be understood. Nobody in the region except the Israelis and the United States are enthusiastic about the war. I think that the globalist elites that are ruling the states in Europe, in Western Europe primarily, are unwilling to admit the truth, because they know if they admit the truth, they'll be held accountable at the ballot box and they will lose. I think they're going to lose anyway. But when the truth comes out, they've had it, because they've also committed suicide economically, as you know, by rejecting cheap Russian energy and turning to us for expensive energy and to other means, believing that the future consists of windmills and solar panels.
That's a good one. But one of the other key reasons for us not to get embroiled and to back up the Netanyahu regime and attacking Iran is that they are allies with Russia and China. So that's going to be a problem militarily, especially with our, weak ass, general or Generation Z. We don't have the soldiers that we used to. So this isn't World War II where we had a bunch of badass, farm boys ready to go over there and kick some ass. We got a bunch of soy boys who get their ass kicked. So we got a problem.
They definitely, the military definitely ran out a lot of good members, trying to force them to take something they didn't want to take. Definitely reduced the strength and ability of our fighting forces for sure. Not to mention draining the strategic oil reserves down to nothing. Not to mention taking all of our artillery and sending it over to Ukraine, like so that our shelves are getting pretty thin over here. I mean, it seems so obvious, on top of letting in 15 million people from God knows where with God knows what intention. I mean, nothing would look different if there was a planned overthrow of the United States of America. I can't think of anything that would look different. Everything is charting. The infrastructure, bridges are being taken out, factory farms are being set on fire, cow flu, bird flu, whatever the heck they're doing this week, and contaminated this and that. It's just testing the electrical grid, some sort of grid down scenario. Oh, yeah. I mean, it sure feels like somebody is getting ready to flip the switch in America. So, yeah, Dreamer says we need to get out of this constant loop of forever politicians. That'd be a good start.
Well, all right. Think of a good start. How about a good end? What do you think of this, Brian? If this would, de-escalate all tensions and bring peace, could we trade? Should we give Bibi Netanyahu to Iran in exchange for peace? And then just have new elections for the leadership of Israel, because the conflict is not worth escalation into World War III. Would you take that trade?
It's an interesting trade idea.
Would you do it?
I don't know.
Oh, come on.
The trade offer I've heard.
If Iran said, hey, we're going to stop this and you guys are going to live in peace, we just need new leadership in Israel and we're good.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know. But once again, that's taking the side of Iran.
Not necessarily. No.
The trade option that I've heard considered is that Gaza would get taken by Israel and the people would be relocated into Iran as reparations for Iran backing the attack that started all of this. That's an interesting trade. Would you do that one?
Say that again now.
Iran takes the people from Gaza in a relocation as reparations for their actions starting this war.
So you think everybody in Palestine who's been there for whatever
thousands of years as reparations,
that they should be relocated, even though that was their land for 1,000 years, 2,000 years, and they should be relocated to Iran?
I'm guessing that's a trade you would not make.
Well, I don't know. That seems a little. That's moving an entire region of people, or just one guy. Is Bibi Netanyahu that important?
Oh, I think it's much bigger than one guy, Blake. That's not about Bibi. That's about nonstop attacks from neighbors that will not leave you be. I mean, it's a matter of perspective, I guess.
Well, yeah, it is a matter of perspective because the people in Palestine would absolutely disagree. You think that they've lived in peace? You think that the Israel just treats them like really nicely? Do you think that they enjoy their time there? Do you think that they have a free, prosperous place to live and survive and thrive?
So things are awful and could be a lot better around there.
Okay, well, a lot of people would think that there's an apartheid type of situation over there and that they are kind of, second-class citizens and they are not being treated fairly. And they don't have Bill of Rights. They don't have, right to speech or, any of that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I don't know why you think that people in Palestine live in some kind of a paradise and they're just lashing up.
I didn't use the word paradise. If it's
okay, well, do you think that people in Israel live awesome differently than people in the Palestine side? It's not equality, Brian. So it's not really fair. So they would look at them as occupiers and that they haven't been very nice to their neighbors. So
that
yes,
sounds very similar to what
very
similar to what the Marxists teach us in American schools, that the United States are occupiers of this land and United States citizens are evil and the U.S. is evil. It's the same play. It's the same argument, and that just I don't know that's a tough one because it really kind of opens the door. And it's like, yep, that's exactly what nope, just change the name from Israel to United States. The U.S. needs to get out of the United States. The U.S. is illegitimate. It's the same stuff. It's the same groups of people that protested in unison. Was it yesterday? Blocking roads and bridges again. Here's your summer of love again. Very eager to look forward to summer of love 2024. All right. Well, we'll see if anybody's interested in any of those trade offers, or if they're just going to press pause and leave everything as is. Good question. Okay, Blake, 2 final questions, lightning round. Agree or disagree that NPR is now completely discredited from its prior legitimacy?
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that. As they passed, there was this awesome story that was put out last week by this man named Uri Berliner, who was also a Peabody award-winning journalist. And he's been at NPR for 25 years, and he's called out the problems and the massive left-wing bias that we've seen, transpire over those years, especially over the last about 10 or 15 years. So they used to be kind of a legitimate source of news, just like CNN used to just do headline news. But now it's all opinion, and they've gotten major stories wrong. Like they, specifically call out, the Russian collusion that didn't happen. They call out, the Hunter laptop, the COVID lockdowns, where the origins of the COVID came from, the lab leak, and that NPR is just completely left-wing run. And now this guy has been suspended. So it seemed like they were gonna, hey, maybe have a moment of reflection and maybe rethink the way that they're presenting the news. But now they've just confirmed that they are just radical leftists. And now they've got a new lady taking over there. This right here, Catherine Marr, who's also a total unhinged radical, who's going to be taking over NPR. So they've lost, yes, their credibility is gone. And I don't think that's going to be repaired. They should probably just be defunded. They shouldn't have anything to do. They shouldn't be taking any taxpayer money. They're biased. It's been exposed. He was completely right, this journalist. And yeah, it's time to say RIP to NPR.
Oh, that's a nice phrase. Well done.
Yes. So he's been suspended for 5 days. Yes. I guess the NPR media writer revealed on Tuesday this guy had been suspended. Reviewed a copy of the letter from the NPR brass saying it told the editor he had failed to secure its approval for outside work. But this is, the thing with journalism. It's tightly controlled now. People aren't allowed to go off script and just to present the news the way they find it. It all has to, go through this filter. They're just script readers. And
that's that's so boring. That's so irrelevant. It's so pointless. Who would choose to consume such trite propaganda? Do the viewers understand what they're watching, Blake? Do they understand that it doesn't even closely represent reality? Like, I've been in this world for so long, I can't remember when I used to trust these people. Like, it's so fake. It's all fake. And it probably always has been.
No, not necessarily. But like I said, with CNN, CNN used to be headline news. They used to have legitimate people on there. It was, Larry King or Lou Dobbs, or they had some, decent people that would just, present information without all of the major slanted, biased opinions. And so they used to do a good job. That's the way the media should be. It's honest and objective and present both sides. But they've transformed, especially really in the last 10 or 15 years. But a lot of people have always considered NPR. I just got into an discussion about this with somebody in my family. I mean, they are well-meaning. They think NPR is legitimate news, and I've had to point out, they've gotten major stories wrong, and it's not by error to me. It's
intentional.
It's something more. It's very intentional.
I can always forgive a mistake. I could always understand in the heat of the moment, or like if you're tweet storming and you're just sharing things that are remotely real. It's like, I'm interested in the topic. Like, we're having a discussion. If you don't, if there's something incorrect about this, we can discuss it and debate it out and hash it out. Like, but taking a hard line stance on something that you specifically understand to be fraudulent, that is where like the line is drawn for me. There is no coming back from that. That's just taking the Scooby-Doo mask off and letting me know exactly what your intentions are. And if they're intentionally fraudulent, I'm done with them as an outlet. The phrase that constantly stays in my head is, if you watch the nightly news, or if you don't watch the nightly news, you're uninformed. If you do watch the nightly news, you're misinformed. And, misinformation and disinformation just coming from the highest levels of, deep state apparatus and corporate interests and PR people. And yeah, they're just reading off a teleprompter, and they're lacking the ability to reason and ration and call things out and correct things. Like, that's what the media is supposed to be. At least that's what we try to do at the New American Media, is just elaborate on the conversations when we can. So NPR, I mean, they're not neutral. They haven't been for a long time. We'll see how this shakes out, but I mean, they're hemorrhaging viewers. Dreamer says, luckily NPR is so boring that no one can literally stand more than 3 minutes of listening to it. Good point. All right, final topic, Blake, and then we'll get you out the door here.
Well, there were two topics, but maybe you can cover the one. It's it's the lawfare with the judge.
Oh, how did that one get screwed up? Well, that was probably the number 2 story of the day. My bad. Yeah. What thoughts on the judge and the lawfare? Trump,
Yeah, this is something you tweeted out. I think he's going to be in trial for like 6 weeks or something, 8 weeks, and they need to have him there every single day. It's clearly lawfare, and it's clearly election interference. And you've got Alvin Bragg, the prosecutor of this trial, who is was put in there by George Soros. So he's funded by a rival of Trump. This is third world country BS. This is outrageous that they're actually trying to pull this off in front of us, and it's over some ticky-tacky stupid misdemeanor trial that they've fluffed into a felony, and it's not. And now you got even Trump saying here, who was the president? No, he can't. He's going to be locked into this stupid trial for allegedly paying hush money to a porn star back 8 years ago. And now he can't go to the graduation of his son, and he can't be campaigning and actively involved running for president because he's going to be forced to sit there through trial.
And number one, it looks like Cohen has no reliability or trustworthiness. It looks like Cohen was the one that made the payment. There's no there if this stuff did happen, because fighting a prolonged legal debate will go through your coffers. Like, it is a legal expense. You pay to stop things from going to court that are going to cost 10 times as much. It's not an admission of guilt. Plus, you have Stormy Daniels putting a statement out saying, I've been asked about this year after year after year after year, and my answer today is the same as it always has been. This never happened. I'm signing off on this. I'm not going to keep talking about this. It's done. I consider this over. Move along. Plus, it's out of the statute of limitations. There is no there. This is the dumbest one of them all, Blake. So I don't know. What do you got pulled up here? What's that?
Well, Brian, that's your own tweet that you put out from Laura Loomer saying that in the court, right? Saying in the courtroom, Judge Merchan just told President Trump that he will be arrested if he doesn't show up for trial every day, and the trial is expected to be 6 to 8 weeks long. So that is, and you said time to charge Merchan and Alvin Bragg for civil rights violations and election interference, which I would agree with. Absolutely.
And I'm just waiting for the genius Ron DeSantis. He's a Florida resident, Donald Trump. Why can't he instruct or work with, why can't they have a meeting and have the district attorney of Florida file charges against Bragg and Merchan for civil rights violations of their resident in Florida? Why can't we do that? Why can't we just fire for fire? We can elaborate on it later. I'm sure we'll have more to update it on later in the week. Final thought, Blake, on Joe Biden governing without cheat sheets.
No, he cannot. He cannot go off script. They were worried. He was supposed to make a statement about the Iran-Israel conflict on Saturday, and then they had to cancel it, probably because he wasn't doing too well. I mean, it takes a lot of effort to prop this guy up. And so
imagine something more terrifying than Biden off the cuff on a World War situation. Oh, dear Lord.
It'd be funny, but they don't want to do that. It's bad optics, obviously. But speaking of bad optics, he's got all these cheat sheets that he carries with him. And they had to specifically outline Iraq so that he wouldn't mess things up. And they also have to instruct him on when to pause. so that he's just not mumbling through a speech, which you will see he still managed to screw this up. Let's watch this 40-second clip here as he was talking here.
As you know, Iran launched an unprecedented aerial attack against Israel.
Oh my God!
I know, he's just reading directly off of this, and it's, look at this poor guy. I don't know, is this like a
he look? Oh my God, does he look uncomfortable? But let me do my Biden impersonation. President attack.
Yep. Yeah, he wasn't all messed up like he was at the State of the Union. So he's sitting there with the Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shahz al-Sudani, and looking really embarrassed as he has to sit here with this puppet.
On an unprecedented military effort to defend Israel. Together with our partners, we defeated that attack.
He's sitting there reading off the script, and he just has no idea on like how to present himself.
كما تعلمون شنت إيران هجوما جويا غير مسبوق ضد إسرائيل وقمنا نحن من طرفنا بجهد عسكري غير مسبوق دفاعا عن إسرائيل وبالتعاون مع شركائنا قمنا
wondering what's going on. It's totally live.
The United States is committed to Israel's security.
والولايات المتحدة ملتزمة بأمن إسرائيل.
We're committed to a ceasefire that will bring the hostages home and prevent the conflict from spreading beyond what it already has.
All right, so he's lost. Yes, he cannot handle himself unless he's very tightly scripted. They don't like him to answer questions off the cuff or speak off the cuff. And of course, they are trying to make sure he does not have to go into a debate with Trump. It's going to be hard for him to go have a back and forth, especially when you see him, obviously using cheat sheets in many of these press conferences. So that's going to be an issue. And people deserve to see the debates. They can sit there and cry all they want. Oh, they shouldn't, engage with Trump because Trump is lying, but that's not what it is. It's Biden can't handle himself. So they could roll somebody out like Gavin Newsom, but Biden is stumbling and fumbling, bumbling, and it's time for him to go. But they're going to go for it. But anyway, I've got to run. It's been delightful. Got to give a heart out. We covered everything. Brian, go ahead and cover whatever else you need to do. But
perfect. Tell people where to find you on your way out the door, sir.
Quickly TV's Blake Walley on Twitter, and the archive will always be available on thenextlevelnews.com. All right, everybody, take care. I got to go.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you as usual. Yes, thank you for pointing out that Nimbus, this is Mr. Nim. He's joined the show today. He's looking for a little bit of attention. It's probably dinner time for him. This old man's been with me for a while. Yeah, we have TNAM Animal Rescue. Neighbor found him. Had him ever since. Be kind to the cats. Thank you, Blake, for joining us on today's program. And I'm going to wrap it up as well. We'll be back. Plan on being back on Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for another episode of the Agree to Disagree show. Take a second. I ask that you click like, you hit heart, you engage with the site, leave a comment, subscribe, let some videos play. So YouTube, we're youtube.com/the new American media, because the old American media failed. Hit subscribe and the notification bell. Rumble, the new American media. Hit subscribe. We need some more subscribers there, because that's our backup. We just lost an appeal on our interview with Dylan McDermott. I know it was a different one. Lou Diamond Phillips, I think that one was already taken down. We went to an Autism Speaks event, and we had conversations that were taken down. So follow us on Rumble. That's our backup for what's going on YouTube. Also Odyssey, the new American media. That one ported over every video we had at the time on YouTube. So Odyssey, search the new American media and hit subscribe. Instagram, we're the new American media. Facebook, there's the new American media page, and the Agree to Disagree show. It's TNAMS, TNAM for the new American media. TNAM''S, the Agree to Disagree show. On X, we're at American_media_. On Telegram, TNAM and TNAM chat. And on Spotify, we have two shows. One is called the Unhappy Hour Sports Show, and the other is called the Agree to Disagree show. That's this one. So please follow us in those places, including Truth Social, The New American Media. Oh, finally, patreon.com/The New American Media. If you're a fan of the show and you would like to assist us in the process of putting it together, this guy, he's like that. Remember those commercials with the owl? How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop? 1, 2, 3. 3. Nimbus is like, oh, you're a friend. I like you. I like you. I like you. And then he'll chomp. So I when he ever gets this close, I always like to back away. Can never trust him. He's the owl from the Tootsie Roll Pop commercial. But once again, he's rubbing on my shoulder now. What a nice guy. Until he's not. And I think that's how Americans are too. We're very nice guys until we're not. We're very, very, very friendly, professional until we're not. And the things that have been pushed in this country have really been taking us off course, and it's time to course correct. So joining us at the New American Media is a part of that course correction. Oh, the one place I did not mention, I have started logging back in and making some changes to the site. Not as many as I could, not as many as I will, but I will add more. TheNewAmericanMedia.com. TheNewAmericanMedia.com. That will be the epicenter. That will be the main location. If/when it'll be necessary to get all of our information out without using social media. TheNewAmericanMedia.com. If you've never been there, go there. Maybe bookmark it. Remember it. Just set it there. Put your tab open, because some things are automatically updated, like our Twitter feed, our X feed. It will upload the content on the bottom right side. So if you're ever trying to find our socials, we're trying to lock in certain sites where it's like, click here and this will take you to our Rumble site. Click here, it's YouTube. Click here, it's X. Click here. There's a lot of clicking, and running a website is not particularly my area of proficiency, but it's time to give that a facelift, and we're in the process of doing so. So if you could connect with us, we would greatly appreciate all of that consideration. We hope you enjoyed today's program. Thank you so much. Dreamer saying, Ken, this is worse. Dreamer, goodbye. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, hit subscribe, follow us, and we will be back. If you're following in different locations, like on Instagram, on X, on the Facebook group, different information is shared at different times. We have different feeds, and we give that to you. So it's worth connecting with us in all the places. I'm going to go feed this guy. He looks pretty hungry and sneezy. And now he's rubbing on me, so I'm allergic to cats, actually. Go figure. I love him, though. Right, buddy? All right, I'm going to go feed this guy. Appreciate you. Love you. Special thanks to Blake today. We'll be back on Thursday at 3 p.m. for the Agree to Disagree show here on the New American Media. To be continued.